it did this, that did this, that did this, and triggered the dryer circuit that was improperly wired in the basement. Like you say, no firewalls, no, you know, and so it was
crazy. And most people would have run for the hills after that. So you stuck around, you built this amazing career. You know,
so sorry to interrupt, but when you say what is the one thing, I got that.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's why, because it's, what do? You got to keep going. But again, you know, this is the point that I'm trying to make, right? You saw so many houses, you saw so many things. One of the things, like repetition, right? One of the reasons I do this show is I want to get better at it. I wasn't going to be good at episode 1. Hopefully by 200-300 I'm good at it, and it becomes instinct. You've been in 20,000 houses. Now, when you're building your property out, you've seen everything. No one's going to pull the wool over your eyes. No builder's going to come in and tell you how to do it. You've seen it all. And I think when you start exuding that confidence for a reason, some people have it because they're just con artists, it makes everyone around you work harder and do better. So talk about how we went from 1 cabin to 6. Talk about the property.
Well, people come and they look around and they look up at these huge beams and, you know, nice design, and they go, how'd you figure this out? I said, well, I did 20,000 inspections and was taking notes on every one, and I know what to do right. I especially know what to not to do.
Yeah.
So it definitely...
You're learning from other people's mistakes. Most people learn from their own mistakes. You're learning from other people's mistakes.
Yeah. But see, as a planner, we were doing design, and, you know, planners are generalists. We did structural engineering, and plumbing, but it was on a huge scale.
Yeah.
And so I just reduced that scale down to one little building at a time, one little bathroom at a time. So it was practice.
Yeah, it was repetition. Practice. Like I said, that's amazing. So one of the things you said is anybody can look at this, say they have this amazing property on the river, and they'd be like, I was a visionary. I saw this property and I knew. I sat there and maybe I partook in some fun activities under a tree, and I looked down and I saw it, and it all just magically appeared. You say the opposite, that you were not a visionary.
No way.
So talk a little bit about that, because I think the realness of saying life takes a lot of luck. It takes a lot of putting yourself in a position to be lucky. So talk about that, because again, it's very easy to just be like, oh man, I thought of this whole thing 30 years ago. It was destined to succeed. Talk about how you approach it, because then we're going to really talk about it and how people can find you and what kind of people are coming up to see you.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a saying here in the South, and it goes something like, sometimes I sits and thinks, and sometimes I just sits. And that's kind of been my story. And people ask me, okay, I want to buy a piece of land. I want to do what you did. I want to build a house. I say, okay, first requirement is get a lawn chair, sit down, nobody around you, no book, no cell phone, just sit, and it'll come to you. And that's been me. I'm slow build, you know, like slow cooking, slow food, slow building.
Yeah.
I've taken this has been 30 plus years in the making, and I'm still doing stuff. My latest thing is a pickleball course, which I guess we're going to talk about. But I don't know. It's just one thing at a time, one step at a time. I didn't have this master plan, which people go, well, you got a master's in planning, and you didn't have a master plan?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
I think most passion projects, the more time you invest in them, the better they come out. And it's hard to say you're passionate about something that you're rushing through, right? Passion implies that it's something that you take that extra time because of the love for it. So I think whenever you talk about putting passion to something, someone's like, oh yeah, I wanted it done in a year and a half. Like, did you really have passion for it, or were you looking for make a quick buck? And there's a big difference.
Okay, good point. I think passion and being in it for the money are mutually exclusive.
I agree.
And they were for me. This was never about
I will say that
money.
if you are passionate for something and you do it the right way, it will lead to money, but you cannot look at those as running forces running adjacent to each other.
You know, I never, ever decided that, okay, this is how I'm going to make a fortune. It's like, I keep saying it, one foot every day, one thing every day. And I'm a kind of a freak. I'm a lister. If nothing's like in my ear, I go, okay, what am I missing? Who do I need to call? And I don't know. It's slow and listen and just don't be so agitated and active and just
Yeah, it's hard these days. I mean, we've built a world and an economy, capitalism, where everyone's looking for the next thing. They want instant gratification. No one wants to put the time into anything anymore. I mean, if you think about back in the day, the best bourbons were 20-year age. Now they're putting it in science labs and trying to speed these processes up. Like the good stuff's going to survive for a reason. You look at lab-grown diamonds. I mean, the diamond, I understand the argument of these are blood diamonds, all this blah, 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 blah. But let's talk. These have been made by pressure for millions of years, and you're going to try to make it in a lab and think it's going to have the same value. Things just don't work that way. And I hope that people are more aware to that fact of the time that is put into something, because everyone looks at it, well, what have you done for me? The best salespeople are not paid because of what they do in a year. They're paid at what they've done for the past 30 years that put them in the position to do that. Right. So I really hope it changes.
Well, the other thing, early on in the 90s, I think, late 90s, early aughts, is I took my family back out to Portland. My mother was getting old, and I said, Mom, what do you want to do? She said, I want to go to Mount Hood. And so I don't know if you've heard of Timberline Lodge, but it was built in the Depression.
I've been up to the top of Mount Hood. I don't know about the lodge. So we took
Mom, kids, grandkids to Timberline Lodge and stayed there while I was building my first big house. And I'm looking around going, man, these dudes are good.
Yeah.
And so I came back from there, sort of changed some things in a significant way, and that inspired, you know, the overall feel and design rustic.
Got it.
Now it's modern rustic. I built my first couple of, mid-century modern cabins, and people like it. It's,
and that's a great point when we talk about design, right? Like, just because something is coming into trend, it doesn't mean it's going to stay in trend. Doesn't mean, and you might catch it, you started doing this 20, 30 years ago. It might come back by the time you get around. And I think those trends have been sped up in social media because everyone wants the next big thing, and capitalism has sped it up. But I mean, how many times have you heard like wallpaper's making a comeback? Yeah. Like, what do you mean wallpaper's making, like you hear all these things. Yeah, so I think that's a really important fact. And I will say, I have been to Bend. I had a buddy who lived there. We flew in. I mean, when I went, it was still like they put you on a runway and they just dropped you off. There was like 2 runways, tiny airport. Yeah. I could only imagine back then what it was. No one was going to Bend. No one even knew it was there.
We, I grew up kind of poor, and grandson of a sheep rancher who died of Rocky Mountain spotted fever and depression. So my parents were pretty conservative, but they would do one thing. They would either go to Mount Hood or they would go to Bend. They would drop us 2 boys at the swimming pool. My mom and dad played golf all day.
That is awesome.
And we love that.
That is awesome. And Bend is what I enjoyed it is like beer heaven, craft beer heaven, Bend, Oregon. But on the river there is just everywhere you go, farm to table. And even I went, it was 10 years ago. But it is, it's a very different place than Georgia. Yeah. Let's leave it at that. So, okay, so Blue Ridge. So Blue Ridge, when I moved here 10 years ago, it was one of the first places I went. And as a Yankee, it was so odd. And the reason it was odd is because you expect these southern small towns to be so southern and almost backwards feeling as a New Yorker. But Blue Ridge was quite the opposite. You walked in and it was like, there were gay flags. It was just the weirdest little microcosm of everything. So talk about how much you've seen Blue Ridge change.
Not initially. What you're talking about happened after 96. What happened in 96 in Blue Ridge?
Olympics, I'm assuming.
Exactly. Okay. The world champion canoe kayak championships were on the Ocoee River, which a lot of people don't know. The Ocoee River and the Toccoa River are the same water. It changes from the Toccoa in Georgia to the Ocoee in Tennessee.
Way to get confusing, river namers.
Yeah, so that happened. A guy named Bo Chance, who's a friend of mine.
Did you know that when you started building, that the Olympics were going to be there?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a guy named Bo Chance started buying up downtown Blue Ridge and renovating, had vision. He made a big impact. It was a dry county. That changed in the late 90s. So. And
when did like Harvest on Main and when did that whole strip start coming into prominence?
Late 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, and that there's some great design downtown. There was a big fire this past summer, or past spring, and fortunately it didn't wipe out the whole town, but it did take a pretty big section of land that's now being redeveloped. And Blue Ridge is got plenty of money.
Yeah,
it used to be
especially
Atlanta.
To be Atlanta money.
Yeah. And now they say, well, this is New York, California money coming in and buying up, there's Old Toccoa Farm, which is 300 lots, a great 18-hole golf course. There's all kinds of weddings.
And to leave New York City to find even that in the mountains in New York, you're going 3 hours, 4 hours at this point. It's so developed everywhere. Like the mountains, Wyndham and Hunter, the ski mountains, they're being bought out completely and turned into country clubs. Like they don't even want people there anymore. So I understand people are like, and even like if you go down to Big Bear and stuff like that in California, they're so overpopulated. Blue Ridge is still a pretty small town, it feels like.
It is, and I have been involved. I was a founder of the Blue Ridge Lodging Association, and our goal is to keep it that way.
Yeah.
We don't want to be, sorry, Helen, we don't want to be Helen, we don't want to be Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge. We want to be Blue Ridge. And what's different about Blue Ridge versus Ellijay and Blairsville? It's really a town center. You can park and walk and get fudge and a craft beer. There's tons of wineries. There's good restaurants. I mean, you can spend easily $100 a person for dinner.
Oh, easily. I remember, so we were in Blue Ridge. It was probably 8 p.m. I don't remember exactly, but we had gone to this shop and we're like, why is nobody in this place? Okay. And it turned out he had closed an hour earlier, but just didn't close his back door. So we're walking through. So and he like looks a little startled and he's like, hey, you guys want to have a drink? And he pulls out a bottle of whiskey and we sit with this complete stranger in his store telling stories. He talks about the curation of the store. It was crazy, man. Most places you go, like you said, Helen, it's all corporations that own these shops that are pretending to be local. But this dude just had accumulated all this stuff over years and was just selling it. And it was I was in Georgia for like 2 weeks when I went up there. It was the craziest thing. Yeah. Yankees' thoughts of Georgia is just odd to begin with. And what I saw, I was so blown away by. We ate at Harvest on Main, probably spent a good $100 each, drank till the night ended. Like it was just an awesome experience, and then went hiking in the morning.
But there's a consensus among the business leaders, those in the tourism industry. Let's keep it small town.
Yeah.
Let's keep the small town vibe. There was Hampton Inn. I got nothing against Hampton Inn, but they have a hotel now. It's a little bit... the opinion of the locals is varied about that.
Yeah.
And tourism also is, I'm in the tourism business and we contribute $40 million in lodging taxes, and
it's a balancing act, right? I know I haven't been there, but I know in Helen they just opened that big Valhalla, that mega resort that they opened up there. That's right outside it, and I imagine it's a boon to the economy. But I also imagine you're changing the dynamic of the city. I mean, if everyone from that resort wanted to come in town would be full. Right? Yeah. Every parking lot would be full. You lose a lot of that charm. And I think there's something to be said about staying at a lodge versus staying at a freaking Hampton Inn. Yeah. Right? There's something about it.
Well, what changed things a lot is this thing called COVID.
Yeah, might have.
Because I looked at our numbers going back to like 2015, and they were sort of creeping up. Then 2021 came along, and all of a sudden there's this big blip in revenue. Same the next year, and I'm going, what? And then it's come back down a little bit.
That was the pent-up demand. It was catching up.
You couldn't come to the office. Maybe
we did,
but
we did every day. Never missed a single day of work. Believe it or not. Apparently, radio is an essential service because of EMPs from the 1970s. And David Dickey had a letter from Homeland Security saying I was essential, so I came to work every single day. I'm so grateful for that fact. This company wouldn't be what it is today had that not happened. But keep going.
But anyway, so. People couldn't go to their office. A lot of people couldn't. You being the exception. Kids couldn't go to school.
Yeah.
So what'd they do? They'd book a cabin for a week, and
it's just amongst friends and family, so everyone's comfortable around each other.
Well, this is post-COVID.
Yeah.
This Governor Kemp. Thank you, Governor.
Yeah.
Opened the state May 1.
Yep.
Closed it down April 1, and we're, all the lodging providers, we're having a conference call every day going,
wow,
what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And, May 1 opened the state back up to tourism. We're going, woohoo!
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
And, it's good and bad. It's people thought it was easy.
Right.
They saw me and my friends, and they thought, I'm going to buy a rental cabin, and I'm going to stay there 4 weeks a year, and OPM, other people's money, are going to pay the mortgage, and what's not to love? Well, 10 people do that, and it gets a little crowded, and it's still a little crowded.
Yeah. No.
Anybody in the business will tell you that right now.
Yeah. So before we close the segment, talk about how to find you. Talk about the kind of people, what they should look for rentals, what the best places, what the best way to use the property are.
Yeah. Well, I can only talk about us, and we are really different. Like I say, I've been different my whole life. I'm really different now in the lodging business because nobody else has what we have. I mean, Old Toccoa Farm, the golf course is downstream on the other side. They got a big hunk of river. We have a quarter mile at Toccoa.
Yeah.
And so we can sleep 50 people comfortably, not futons, not cots.
Cool.
50 people in comfortable beds, 25,000 square feet. So we don't I'm friends with folks that manage 150, 300 cabins. That's not me.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I never want to. I want to have groups like 680 The Fan come and have a meeting at our property and play pickleball and basketball and swim and fish and go out to dinner or have catering.
Leave their freaking phones at home.
Huh?
Leave their freaking phones at home. Be one with nature. We need it.
So that's what we do. Toccoa House, Toccoa, like the river, house.com. You can see it all right there, floor plans. And so we're different. We will rent a cabin, but a year from now, if somebody wants to come for 4 days, we can accommodate that. And I just like it. It's what I do. I'm passionate about it. It was never really a business. I mean, it was and it wasn't, but just having fun.
Good. I absolutely love to hear it. We're going to come back after this break, and I'm going to completely throw you off with a segment that I'm making up as we're talking, which is going to be good.
Man.
So you've been listening to the Marketing MadMen on Extra 106.3, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Marketing MadMen on Extra 106.3. Nick Constantino here with Greg Spencer of Toccoa House Properties. And what we're going to do is we're going to play another hypothetical game here. So let's get back to our Zen place. So we're in the mountains, we're relaxing, you're on your chair. And I'm going to give you, I was going to say let's say $10 million. And I'm going to say, I want you to build your dream property. And I want it to be something that is meaningful to the community and to the people who seek to be tourists there. Okay. I want you to tell me how you would start, where you would build it, what you would put into the design process, who the customer is, and we're going to have kind of a fake marketing conversation as to how we would attract people to said property.
Well, I'm super conflicted because, I'm a Northwest guy, Oregon Ducks, Washington Huskies, but when I came to Atlanta, like I said earlier, our previous segment, Atlanta was cool. I was 24. It didn't check all the boxes.
Sure.
When I found Blue Ridge, and I was working, I was making good money running a home inspection firm in Atlanta, but I could spend whatever amount of time I wanted in Blue Ridge, more and more and more and more. Blue Ridge became my home. Yeah. And so could I ever think about leaving? Whew, that's a tough one. And if I did, where would I go?
I do want to say one thing. So I grew up in New York City, and my parents lived in Long Island, and the hour and a half that it takes to get to Blue Ridge is what most people commute in New York every day. Yeah. So like we're a little spoiled in the sense here that like you're taking an hour and a half, and that's what it takes to get up there. That is what a lot of people in this country take for commute. LA, you're taking an hour and a half to commute 10 miles in LA. So Blue Ridge is an extension of Atlanta, and it is somewhere you can escape for a long weekend, which makes it home. I mean, we don't have to say like it's a resort that's 5 hours away. That's what people love about the mountains. I'm a beach guy first and foremost, but 5 hours and an hour and a half are very different times to drive. So hopefully I bought you some time so you can get your conflict out and pick where we're building this thing.
Well, let me just to give you the other side of it is, I've always loved the mountains of Oregon and Washington. Yeah. I went to college and grad school, Eastern Washington. I love that too. Snow on the ground, 2 feet of snow all winter. I guess if I had to leave, let's
leave. Yep.
Let's say, okay, Blue Ridge has closed down, and you're out of business, and you got to leave the state. I guess I would go to the west of the mountain range of Oregon.
Love it.
Sort of beachy.
Love it.
West side of Mount Hood.
Good wine up there.
We used to play baseball in Willamette Valley, and that's like the world's best Pinots.
Love it.
And we're just baseball fields.
So I love it.
So anyway, okay, we're going to the west side of Mount Hood and buying a 50-acre property.
Okay. Are we talking on the beach? Or are we talking a couple miles
not
from the beach?
on the beach.
Okay.
The beach is like, I don't know anybody that's ever been to the Oregon coast in July. It's about 50 degrees, and so it's cold. So up a little higher with better views.
Okay.
Bigger than, 17 acres is a good hunk on the Toccoa, but it's not 100 acres.
Yeah.
So I'd buy 100 acres, great views, and do what I've done, but more intentional, more purposeful, more directed. I'm no spring chicken. I used to say I was in the fourth quarter. Now I say I'm in overtime. But so I think I've got a plan for that. Development. I didn't develop this Toccoa House Properties.
Sure, but what about style of the houses? Would it be the similar? Would you do something different?
Similar but modern.
Okay.
People don't like, well, not everybody, but the 2000s and 1990s design in Blue Ridge is not very open. It's a lot of wood. People like mixed materials.
Yeah.
So it'd be that. You ever watch Yellowstone?
Yeah.
It'd be Yellowstone.
Okay.
And
but you don't have the big open grass field, so we're just kind of transporting it, but I get it.
Yeah, and I'd get Rip to be my manager.
There you go.
And
you chase all those cattle away if you need to.
But, so we have disc golf at Toccoa House Properties.
Cool.
We don't have golf. And, be nice to have a decent golf course, even a putting kind of thing. So, I don't know, golf, swimming, paddling.
Love it.
Pickleball, got to play pickleball.
Love it.
And we haven't talked about that, but I've had a total knee replacement a year ago, and my basketball career was over. But I love to play pickleball, and it keeps me very fit. And I don't need the knee.
Yeah,
anymore.
That's great. Do you think pickleball is, I don't want to say the word fad, but I've already seen some things like where these leagues have already merged 6 times over, and some of these facilities they're making already going out of business because everyone jumped on the hype train, built way too much. Do you see it as a fad, or do you see it as something that's going to continue onward in the lexicon?
I see it something that will continue on because there's a lot of folks like me that we just can't do a slam dunk anymore.
Yeah. Tennis is bad on the knees also. You move around a lot.
Even tennis. I played a lot of tennis. But I just, the body breaks down. But I can play pickleball 4 days a week for 2.5, 3 hours a day. It's social.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're pushing. I want to have tournaments on Toccoa House Properties where people can come and stay.
Cool,
we got 23 bedrooms. Book a weekend. We're having a tournament.
It's cool.
680 The Fan pickleball tournament. So I don't know. I sort of got off topic, but
that's okay.
That the thing about where would you go, what would you build, what would you design, makes my head spin.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I just, I advise people that are going to build on a vacant piece of land. Just sit there.
Yeah.
Sit there and look at it. It'll come to you. Don't stress about it.
It'll come to you if you want it to. If you're going to sit there and just fight yourself, you're never going to do it. What I would do is I think that golf is too stuffy and it's starting down the path of being less stuffy. I want a outdoor, under the lights, 9-hole golf course with a stage in the front of it where bands can come and play, and then there are speakers all through the course so you can hear the bands play as you go and play nighttime golf.
Wow.
You would need rangers because you have to keep the pace up, because now that I've started really playing golf, nothing worse than some ass in front of you taking too long to play. But I think there is a huge demand for 9 p.m. golf to 11:30 golf, and I think it would be as big as Topgolf at all these places. And I think you can design a course that would be able to do that, and it could be an hour from here and people would still go.
We haven't even talked about music.
Let's do some music.
I started playing guitar when I was 12, played in a high school band. I was the second best guitar player in my high school band. So they made me play bass, and that I wasn't happy about that. So quit the band, played acoustic in college and stuff. But who
are your musical influences then?
Everybody in the Americana genre.
Okay.
I could go on and on and on.
Please name some.
I like Zydeco. you know, and somebody said, I managed the Blues and Barbecue Fest, the music on that and the stage. And
Zydeco's with the big slide, like the shutter looking things.
Accordion. And, you know, somebody said, well, this is a blues festival. Why you got some Zydeco guy? And Zydeco's the original blues, Cajun.
Yeah, Cajun.
So who are my influences? I mean, a lot of those California, Jackson Brown.
Cool.
Like John Prine. I really could go on because I'm eclectic.
Okay.
I listen to music a lot. I watch YouTube videos almost every day.
Good for you.
And I was never a great musician, but I love it. And so what I do in Blue Ridge is I give back because I do a lot of music. I produce music shows.
That's great.
Also volunteerism. We haven't talked about that either. I'm on the board for Snack and Backpack. We've fed over 1 million kids in the last 10 years. Freedom for Fido. We get dogs off chains and build fences. So,
Love it.
you know, at this point, I sold my inspection business.
Yeah.
I didn't mention that. 2019. Never looked back.
Yeah.
People thought I would, but never looked back. I made good money and I'm doing this Toccoa House thing.
Yeah.
I can't say just for fun because I don't have, I'm not Bill Gates or Warren Buffett.
But you're enjoying it.
I'm enjoying it.
You're doing a lot of different things that keep you busy, keep you young, that you're enjoying. And it sounds like everyone's digging the vibe and you're impacting you're impacting a lot of people.
You know what people like is that when I'm riding around on my Kawasaki mule doing some cleaning the pool or whatever, and I see them checking in, I'll pull in and say, how you doing? Who are you? I'm Greg. Oh, you're the one that I've been talking to. Hey, good to see you. Anything I can do? You got the code? You need to.
But that's exactly like the inspecting business, right?
Yeah.
They're not expecting it to be that kind of thing. And once you look, one thing I will say right now, people's expectations are so freaking low. Like we're in a world right now where no one is trying to be the best; they're just trying to be better than the other people, and that's despicable. So when you can exceed people's expectations, and it sounds like what you've humbly been trying to do is exceed the expectations of what people have by being more vocal, being out there, trying to care about them, not making it about the money, following passion, and I think that is incredibly commendable. Again, I commend you. Give one more shout out to how people found Toccoa House before we wrap up.
Well, they can call me, Google Greg Spencer Blue Ridge or Toccoa House Blue Ridge, and boom, I pop up.
Make sure you ask him his favorite Zydeco band.
My cell phone's on the website. I do have a 24-year-old operations manager who happens to be my grandson, and he's awesome.
Good.
Used to stay up all night, 13, playing video games, and we thought, what a loser. And now he's like this amazing kid and
crazy how that
smart.
Crazy how that works. It's probably because he had a good influence on him from you.
But people don't think, they think I'm like the maintenance guy.
Yeah.
And they don't think I'm like both feet planted, and they go, well, how many of these cabins do you own? Well, all
whole thing, baby.
Really?
Well, that's as good
and
of a way.
You're here talking to me?
That's as good of a way to end it as anything. So, Greg, thank you, bud. You've been listening to Marketing MadMen on Extra 106.3, and we will catch you next week.
You're great, Nick.